abundant money machines, the banking system, which rigs the government and then funnels money back to politicians to keep the game rigged. Let's hear more from the man who made the passionate plea on the Senate floor today, Senator Ted Kaufman, Democrat from Delaware. This is obviously not as complicated as a lot of people would like us to believe. The reality is, gambling with somebody else's money is somebody everybody knows shouldn't happen. The reality is hiding risk so that you can reduce costs, so you can kick the can down the road, shouldn't happen. The other reality is the banks and banking and finance is a huge source of money for Washington politicians. Sounds like almost an unreconcilable situation, Senator.
Well, there's a lot of problems, and you know, Dylan, what I tried to do today was lay out, I've been spending a lot of time on this, and I lay out kind of completely separate from the politics, completely separate from what's possible, but lay out what we should be doing in light of the incredible disaster that we faced a year and a half ago, and how we make sure it never happens again.
Yeah, but the problem is if you do that, you'll have to create transparency for credit default swaps.
Right.
You'll have to get rid of proprietary trading at banks with other people's money. And you'll have to have some sort of consumer protection so that at least everybody can see what the actual cost of a mortgage over 30 years would be. If you just did those three things, you'd probably avoid the problem. Problem is for the banks, credit default swaps and proprietary trading is where they make all their money because modern technology has eliminated the rest of their profit centers. So what you're saying is I'm going to eliminate the bank's profit centers, and that eliminates flow of funds to politicians, right?
Yeah. What I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the banks, you know, go back to the Glass-Steagall Act. My basic thing is, Dylan, 1929 happened. We put in place a lot of things. Glass-Steagall, we created the FDIC, we created the Securities Exchange Commission, we had margin calls, we talked about the uptick rule, we did all these things. And then over the next 70 years, they worked for us until we started about 20 years ago slowly chopping away at it. And now, because of these things, because we did away with these things and made these changes, we had a massive meltdown. And my approach is we got to go back to those things. What happens too often now, people say we have to prove why we should reverse Glass-Steagall. Yeah. Why should I have to prove that? Glass-Steagall worked. Why do I have to prove it worked, that we shouldn't go back to it? We should go back to it. And it's a point you made when you were leading into this thing. Banks, we created banks commercial banks in order to protect people who had small investments or even larger investments, and we set up insurance for them. They were never intended to get into the risky things they're in now. And when we did Glass-Steagall, when I was in graduate school, we knew investment, there's a great conflict of interest between commercial banking and investment banking. And the idea of putting the two of those together was a bad idea. We found out what it was. Let's go back and fix it.
But the innovation was the destruction of the profitability of Wall Street because of the disruption of modern technology and transparent markets forced them to go to Washington to create this gimmickry so they could still make money, and that money still flows to Washington, D.C. So you're talking about turning off the bank's money machine, Senator, and Dylan, politicians in the process.
We went through the same thing with the savings and loan crisis, remember? The government came in and said, okay, savings and loan, you're really built to do this very small business. Let's make it more risky. They wanted to get more risky. They did it. Okay, they did it, and mistakes were made, and I'm not talking about that. We sure as hell with the savings and loan industry didn't go back to them and tell them, just keep on doing what you're doing.
I know, it's crazy. Senator, thank you so much. You keep doing what you're doing, sir. We appreciate it. That does it for us. I am Dylan Ratigan. Hardball's up next right now with Chuck Todd.